Kenya is one of those places that changes you. And I know that sounds like a cliche, something you read on a travel blog or hear from someone who spent 2 weeks abroad and suddenly thinks they found enlightenment. But I mean it in a very specific way. Kenya rewires something in your brain. It shifts the scale of what you think is beautiful, what you think is possible, and honestly, what you think matters. By the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly what I mean. And if you have never seriously considered visiting Kenya before, I am willing to bet that is going to change in the next few minutes. Let me start with something that most people do not expect. When you think of Kenya, you probably picture savannas, wide open grasslands, maybe a lion or two, the golden light of an African sunset. And yes, all of that is absolutely real and absolutely stunning. But Kenya is not just one landscape. It is a country that somehow managed to collect almost every type of terrain the planet has to offer and compress it into a space roughly the size of Texas. You have tropical beaches along the Indian Ocean coastline. You have snow-capped mountains near the equator. You have dense forests, arid deserts, fertile highlands, and freshwater lakes that stretch to the horizon. The diversity is almost absurd. It is as if nature looked at Kenya and said, I am going to put everything here and see what happens. And what happened is one of the most visually spectacular countries on Earth. Let us start where most people start when they think about Kenya, and that is the wildlife. The Masai Mara National Reserve is arguably the most famous wildlife destination in the world, and there is a very good reason for that. Every year between July and October, something extraordinary takes place. Over 2 million wildebeest, along with hundreds of thousands of zebras and gazelles, make their way from the Serengeti in Tanzania northward into the Mara. This is the Great Migration, and it is considered one of the most awe-inspiring natural events on the planet. Imagine standing on a ridge and watching an endless river of animals flowing across the plains below you. The ground vibrates. The sound is overwhelming, dust rises into the air and catches the light, and everything looks like it belongs in a documentary, except you are there, standing in it, breathing it in. But the migration is just one piece of the puzzle. On any given day in the Masai Mara, you might spot lions lounging in the tall grass, cheetahs scanning the horizon for prey, elephants moving in slow, dignified herds, leopards draped over the branches of acacia trees, and hippos wallowing in the Mara River. The big five, lion, leopard, rhinoceros, elephant, and Cape buffalo, are all present here. And seeing them in the wild, in their natural habitat, not behind glass or in a zoo, is a fundamentally different experience. There is a rawness to it, a humility that settles over you when you realize you are a guest in their world. Now here is something that a lot of travelers do not know. The Masai Mara is far from the only place to see incredible wildlife in Kenya. Amboseli National Park, located at the base of Mount Kilimanjaro, offers one of the most iconic views in all of Africa. Picture this: a massive herd of elephants walking slowly across a dry lake bed, and behind them, rising dramatically from the flat terrain, is Kilimanjaro, its peak dusted with snow, its flanks wrapped in clouds. It is a photograph that practically takes itself. Amboseli is also home to over 400 species of birds, which makes it a paradise for birdwatchers. You will see everything from martial eagles to flamingos to lilac-breasted rollers, which might be the most beautiful bird I have ever seen in my life. Then there is Tsavo, which is actually split into two parks, Tsavo East and Tsavo West. Together, they form one of the largest wildlife sanctuaries in the world. Tsavo is less crowded than the Mara, which means the experience feels more intimate, more raw. Tsavo East is known for its vast plains and the Galana River, where crocodiles bask on the banks and herds of elephants come to drink. The elephants here are famous for their reddish color, which comes from the red volcanic soil they dust themselves with. Tsavo West, meanwhile, is more rugged and mountainous, with the stunning Mzima Springs, where you can actually watch hippos and fish through an underwater viewing chamber. It feels like something out of a nature documentary because it literally is. Many documentaries have been filmed here. Let me shift gears now because I promised you that Kenya is more than wildlife, and I want to deliver on that promise. Let us talk about the coast. Kenya has over 500 kilometers of Indian Ocean coastline, and it is nothing short of paradise. The beaches here are white sand fringed with palm trees, and the water is that impossible shade of turquoise that you think only exists in photo filters but is actually very real. The coastal city of Mombasa is a destination in itself. It is Kenya's second largest city and its oldest, with a history that stretches back over 1,000 years. Mombasa has been a trading port for centuries, visited by merchants from Arabia, India, Portugal, and beyond. That history is baked into the architecture, the food, the culture. The old town in Mombasa is a labyrinth of narrow streets, carved wooden doors, and buildings that blend Swahili, Arab, and European influences in ways that are completely unique. Just north of Mombasa, you will find Watamu and Malindi, two coastal towns that offer world-class snorkeling and diving. The Watamu Marine National Park protects a stunning coral reef teeming with tropical fish, sea turtles, and even the occasional whale shark. The biodiversity here is remarkable. Beneath the surface of the water, you are entering a completely different world, one that is just as rich and complex as the savannas above ground. And then there is Lamu. Lamu Island is one of the oldest and best preserved Swahili settlements in East Africa, and it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. There are no cars on Lamu, the streets are too narrow. Instead, people get around on foot or by donkey. The town has a dreamlike quality to it. Stone buildings with intricately carved wooden balconies line the waterfront. Traditional dhow sailboats drift across the harbor. The pace of life is slow and deliberate. Spending time in Lamu feels like stepping backward through centuries without losing any of the warmth and hospitality that Kenya is known for. Many visitors describe it as one of the most peaceful places they have ever been. Now let us go in the opposite direction. Let us go up. Mount Kenya is the second highest mountain in Africa, after Kilimanjaro, and it sits almost exactly on the equator. The fact that there is a snow-capped peak sitting on the equator is one of those geographical facts that seems like it cannot possibly be true, but it is. Mount Kenya is a stratovolcano that last erupted millions of years ago, and over time glaciers and erosion have sculpted its peaks into dramatic, jagged formations. Climbing Mount Kenya is a serious undertaking, but you do not have to be a mountaineer to appreciate it. The mountain is surrounded by a national park and forest reserve that is home to elephants, buffalo, leopards, and a staggering variety of bird species. The vegetation changes dramatically as you ascend, from dense bamboo forests to alpine meadows filled with giant lobelias and ground cells, plants that look like they belong on another planet. It is an alien landscape in the best possible way. And speaking of landscapes that seem otherworldly, let me tell you about the Great Rift Valley. This massive geological feature stretches from Lebanon in the north all the way down to Mozambique in the south, and Kenya sits right in the heart of it. The Rift Valley is responsible for some of Kenya's most dramatic scenery, including a chain of lakes that are each remarkable in their own right. Lake Nakuru, for instance, was once famous for hosting millions of flamingos. At its peak, the lake's shores were so densely packed with flamingos that from the air, the entire lake appeared pink. The flamingo numbers have fluctuated over the years due to changes in water levels and chemistry, but Nakuru remains a stunning destination. The national park surrounding the lake is also a sanctuary for both black and white rhinoceros, making it one of the best places in Kenya to see these critically endangered animals. Then there is Lake Naivasha, a freshwater lake that is a haven for hippos and over 400 bird species. You can take a boat ride on Lake Naivasha and find yourself within meters of hippos, which, by the way, are statistically more dangerous to humans than lions. There is something both thrilling and mildly terrifying about gliding past a hippo in a small boat and watching it eye you with what appears to be casual indifference but could easily become something else entirely. Further north, you encounter Lake Turkana, sometimes called the Jade Sea because of its remarkable green color. Lake Turkana is the world's largest permanent desert lake and is one of the most remote and hauntingly beautiful places in Kenya. The landscape around it is barren, volcanic, almost Martian. This area is also of immense scientific importance. Some of the oldest hominid fossils ever discovered have been found near Lake Turkana, including Turkana Boy, a nearly complete skeleton of Homo erectus that is approximately 1.5 million years old. Standing near Lake Turkana, you are standing near the cradle of humanity. Our ancestors walked here. That thought alone is enough to make you pause and feel the weight of deep time pressing down on the present. Let me bring you back to the human side of Kenya now, because the landscape and wildlife are extraordinary, but the people are what truly make this country unforgettable. Kenya is home to over 40 distinct ethnic communities, each with its own language, traditions, and way of life. The most internationally recognized are the Maasai, semi-nomadic pastoralists who have inhabited the region for centuries. The Maasai are known for their distinctive red clothing, their elaborate beadwork, and their deep connection to the land and their cattle. Visiting a Maasai village is an experience that is both humbling and eye-opening. Their way of life is so different from what most of us know, yet it is sustained by a profound understanding of ecology, community, and resilience. But Kenya's cultural richness extends far beyond the Maasai. The Kikuyu, the largest ethnic group, have a rich tradition of storytelling and agriculture. The Samburu people of the north share cultural similarities with the Maasai, but have their own distinct identity. The Swahili people of the coast have built a vibrant culture that blends African, Arab, and Indian influences, and the Swahili language, which originated here, is now spoken by over 100 million people across East Africa. Nairobi itself is one of the most dynamic cities on the African continent. It is a major hub for technology, finance, and creative industries. The city has a thriving art scene, incredible restaurants, and a nightlife that can hold its own against any global capital. And just 20 minutes from downtown Nairobi, you will find Nairobi National Park, where you can watch lions and giraffes with the city skyline shimmering in the background. There is no other major city on earth where that is possible. The food in Kenya deserves its own conversation. Kenyan cuisine is diverse and deeply satisfying. Nyama choma, which translates to grilled meat, is practically a national obsession. Picture perfectly seasoned goat or beef, slow roasted over charcoal until it is tender and smoky and absolutely incredible. Ugali, a staple made from maize flour, is served alongside stews and vegetables and is the foundation of countless meals across the country. On the coast, the cuisine shifts dramatically. Here you will find biryani, samosas, and coconut-infused curries that reflect centuries of trade and cultural exchange. Freshly caught seafood, grilled and served with chapati and a squeeze of lime, is one of the simplest and most delicious meals you will ever eat. And if you have a sweet tooth, you need to try mandazi, a slightly sweet fried dough that is often served with tea and is basically the Kenyan answer to a donut, except arguably better. Kenyan tea, by the way, is world-class. Kenya is one of the largest tea exporters in the world, and the highland tea growing regions around Kericho produce some of the finest black tea you will ever taste. Visiting a tea plantation is a surprisingly serene experience. The rolling green hills covered in neat rows of tea bushes are visually stunning, and the fresh air at that altitude is invigorating. I want to take a moment to address something that I think holds a lot of people back from visiting Kenya, and that is safety. Like any country, Kenya has its challenges. There are areas where caution is advised, and it is always smart to travel with awareness and preparation. But the vast majority of tourists who visit Kenya have safe, incredible, life-changing experiences. The tourism infrastructure in Kenya is well developed. There are lodges and camps ranging from rustic to ultra-luxurious. Guides are knowledgeable and experienced, and the Kenyan people, almost universally, are welcoming and generous to visitors. The phrase Hakuna Matata, which the whole world learned from a certain animated movie, is actually a real Swahili expression used in Kenya. It means no worries, and while life is obviously not without its worries for anyone anywhere, the spirit behind that phrase, a relaxed optimism, a willingness to find joy, is genuinely embedded in the culture. Let me tell you about one more place that I think encapsulates the magic of Kenya, and that is the Laikipia Plateau. This area, located north of Mount Kenya, is one of the most important wildlife conservation regions in the country. What makes Laikipia special is that much of the conservation here is community-driven. Local communities, private ranches, and conservancies work together to protect wildlife while also supporting the livelihoods of the people who live there. Staying at a conservancy in Laikipia means that your visit directly contributes to conservation and community development. It also means you get experiences that are impossible in the larger, more popular parks. Night game drives, walking safaris guided by local experts, and the chance to see rare species like Grevy's zebra and wild dogs. Laikipia represents the future of sustainable tourism, and experiencing it firsthand gives you hope that conservation and development can coexist. There's also something I have not mentioned yet, and it might seem like a small detail, but it matters. The light in Kenya is different. I do not know how else to describe it. Something about the equatorial sun, the altitude, the quality of the air creates a light that makes everything look more vivid, more alive. Photographers talk about the golden hour, that brief period around sunrise and sunset when everything is bathed in warm, soft light. In Kenya, the golden hour seems to last longer. Sunrises and sunsets here are not just beautiful, they are theatrical. The sky turns shades of orange and pink and purple that seem impossible. And because the landscapes are so vast and open, you see the full arc of the sky from horizon to horizon. It is the kind of beauty that makes you set down your camera because you realize no photograph is going to capture what you are actually seeing and feeling. I have been talking for a while now, and I realize I could keep going. I have not even mentioned the Aberdare Mountains with their waterfalls and misty forests. I have not talked about Hell's Gate National Park where you can actually cycle among zebras and giraffes. I have not described the Chalby Desert in the north, one of the most remote and stark landscapes in East Africa. I have not covered the incredible marathon runners who come from the highlands around Eton and Eldoret, who have dominated long-distance running for decades and turned Kenya into a legend in the world of athletics. There is so much to say about this country that any single video can only scratch the surface. But let me try to bring this all together with something that I think captures the essence of why Kenya is special. There is a concept in Swahili called pole pole. It means slowly, slowly. It is a reminder to take your time, to not rush through life, to be present in the moment. And I think that is the greatest gift that Kenya offers a visitor. In a world that is constantly accelerating, constantly demanding your attention, constantly pulling you toward the next thing, Kenya asks you to slow down. To sit quietly at dawn and watch the sun rise over the savannah. To listen to the sound of the wind in the acacia trees, to watch a herd of elephants move across the landscape with a patience and grace that makes our human hurrying seem absurd. To sit on a beach and let the sound of the Indian Ocean waves rewrite whatever anxious narrative has been running in your head. Kenya does not just show you beautiful things. It teaches you how to see it, recalibrates your sense of wonder, and once that recalibration happens, it does not go away. You carry it with you. Every sunrise looks a little different after you have seen one in the Mara. Every meal tastes a little more meaningful after you have shared nyama choma with new friends in Nairobi. Every moment of quiet feels a little more precious after you have experienced the vast silence of the Rift Valley. That is what I meant at the beginning when I said Kenya changes you. It is not some vague mystical transformation. It is specific. It is a shift in your attention, in what you value, in how you experience the ordinary moments of your life after you have been immersed in something truly extraordinary.